one voice that matters on Budget 2019, and that's former Finance Minister P Chidambaram, who joins us right here on ET Now. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. I know as a politician and as a very senior member of the opposition, you're going to criticize the budget. Let me just say what widely is being said about this budget, that this is a please-all, smartly packaged election budget.
Well, whether it's smartly packaged or not will be known in the next few days. It will begin to unravel. It's already unraveling. Take, for example, this 6,000 crore rupee bounty they've announced for the farmers. You break it down, it works out to 17 rupees a day per family. If you take a family of 4 or 5, it works out to between 3 to 4 rupees per person per day. And on the other side, the calculations show that on fertilizer, on diesel, on electricity, on seeds, a farmer has to spend an additional about 24,000 rupees today. And how does it help that a farmer with 1 acre and a farmer with 4 acres gets the same amount? A farmer with 4 acres will have at least twice or thrice the expenditure of a farmer with 1 acre. So this kind of a uniform 2,000 rupee in 3 installments, 6,000 rupees, how does it help the farmer who produces the surpluses of this country? The farmer with 3 or 4 acres is the one who produces surpluses. I think it will unravel more as we do the math more carefully.
So I did ask this question to Finance Minister Goyal, and his response was, and that's also the BJP standard response to this, that this is not just one income. This is supplementing what is an added source of income. This is a help. This is sort of a helping hand. Can you quarrel with the fact or the idea that agriculture needs a helping hand?
It does, but this is measly, which is why we said, or Congress President said, that our minimum income guarantee will bring every farmer, 1 acre, 2 acre, 4 acre farmer, to a minimum level of annual income. But this does not. Please tell me, how is it justified to give the same amount of money to a farmer who has 1 acre and a farmer who has got 4 acres?
Let me just ask you one question, and then I come back to this agri package. There was a lot of fear, and people were preparing and bracing themselves up for a lot of fiscal profligacy. Will you at least grant them the fact that they haven't been fiscally irresponsible in an election year?
What else is this? They were supposed to achieve 3% in 2017-18.
We were supposed to get to 3% in 2008 as well.
No,
so it's
we got into 3% in 2008. Please look at your budget numbers. In 2007-8, we achieved below 3%, just a shade below 3%. We slipped because of the international financial crisis. Therefore, we did achieve the 3% by 2007-8. Their goal was 2017-18. Now they pushed it back by 1 year to 18-19, and they didn't achieve it. They didn't achieve the 3.3, they have achieved 3.4, and I believe it is understated by 0.3.
Why do you say that?
Because they have not provided for the amount they have spent or have to spend or liability incurred, at least on one major program, Ayushman Bharat, the Health for All scheme. And for next year, instead of reducing the fiscal deficit, they keep it at the same 3.4. Already the bond prices have hardened because the analysts and the market is reacting that you have not kept your commitment to fiscal discipline. As I said, the FRBM Act is as good as having been thrown out of the window.
But is fiscal discipline a war cry at a time when agriculture is languishing? And I may agree with you, I may disagree with you on agriculture. If they were not going to do anything in the budget, then they would have been accused of apathy towards agriculture. If they have, they're being taught lessons on fiscal prudence. How are you going to? It's a very, very tightrope walk.
Agriculture has its ups and downs. Is it the first time that farmers are in distress? The point is, this is an interim budget. You had no business to make these announcements and announce these grand schemes without providing money. So this should have been left to the next government. Suppose there is a new government. That new government must have the freedom and the play to devise its own programs. You are now leaving behind you a lot of mess which the new government may want to clean up, and we'll waste a whole year cleaning up this mess. Each government is entitled only to 5 years. You should have done all this last year. You slept for 5 years, suddenly wake up, realize that you may not come to power, and in a desperate move to come back to power, you announce something which ties the next government, which is unethical, illegal, and unconventional.
Let me just voice the BJP's and the ruling government's opinion on this. They believe that with this one move, they have been able to recapture imagination, capture some of the narrative back that you tried to stump them with your minimum income guarantee program. And I'll come to your program in just a bit. Is the Congress Party's big grouse, A, that it's retrospective and this begins from December 2018, and the fact that it could potentially bring the BJP to recapture the narrative on elections and otherwise?
The BJP's, what is that called? PM Kisan. PM Kisan is not going to recapture any narrative. They've lost it. For 4 years, they didn't give a proper MSP. They didn't address the farm distress. They didn't waive the loans in states where there was a cry for loan waiver. And the farmer is sunk deeper and deeper into debt and distress. The average debt of a farmer family in India is estimated to be about 90,000 rupees. Now for 5 years you do nothing. 5 years you allow Kisan marches in Bombay, in Maharashtra, in every state, upon Delhi, even yesterday there was a Kisan march. Suddenly wake up and say, I'll give you 17 rupees a day. You think the farmer is a fool to be fooled by this jumla? Our scheme is a much better scheme. It does not distinguish between farmer and non-farmer poor. There are poor farmers, there are poor non-farmers. There is rural poor, there is urban poor. All the poor must be helped to come to a level, and this scheme does nothing of that kind. And we are not at all frightened or scared by this PM Kisan scheme.
Before PM Kisan Samman is what they call it, and they say this is a token of our appreciation and our respect for the Annadata. But before I come to how
this is an insult to the farmer by giving him 3.5 rupees per person, per family, per day.
Before I come to how are you going to outdo Mr. Modi now, but as a former finance minister, as somebody who's made, produced, presented budgets, are you at least not relieved about one thing, that the discussion is moving away from just blanket plain Jane loan waivers to at least looking at a more comprehensive solution? And this is across the political spectrum. None of you are now just talking about loan waivers, and this government hasn't done so either.
I don't accept your argument that loan waivers are intrinsically bad. A loan waiver is contextual and state specific. It is not an answer to the problem of the farmers. It is immediate relief for the farmer who has sunk into deep debt. Please tell me, how will an average Indian farmer pay back an average debt of 90,000 rupees? There's no way he can pay it. Therefore, the state has to step in and clean that slate. After that, and alongside that, you can announce other schemes that will address the question of infrastructure, income, etc. But I don't think the approach that you are adopting, namely loan waiver is intrinsically bad, is correct. It is state-specific and contextual.
If you were presenting an interim budget as UP's finance minister in this year, when there is so much when there's so much farm stress, would you have opted for a loan waiver?
No, because the states have done it. Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, and I think a couple of other states have done it. So if the states have done it, there's no reason for the central government to announce a loan waiver.
This is Mr. Modi's offer. What is yours going to be? How are you going to better it? Because people have now said that, are we now stepping into the realm and the regime and the arena of competitive populism? And I'm using that very responsibly. Your minimum income guarantee versus their PM Kisan are we heading into an election period where one is going to outdo the other? How are you going to stump them further?
Don't even compare our minimum income guarantee with their measly PM Kisan. Don't even compare. This is Mr. Modi's farewell song. 5 years the government did nothing, and now they want to do penance for their default over the last 5 years. Our manifesto is for the next 5 years. We are looking through the windshield. He is looking through the rear view mirror. We are looking through the windshield to present a plan for the next 5 years. The MIG, minimum income guarantee, is only one feature of the manifesto. The manifesto will have several sections. The one section about relief to the poor, which springs from our belief that the poor of India have the first right to the resources of the country.
It was used yesterday as well.
A line which Mr. Goyal borrowed. He could have at least acknowledged that we had used it first, be that as it may. So we are going to announce a manifesto which covers a wide section. For example, where does this interim budget even mention the word jobs or education? In their 10-year vision, there's not a word on education. Have you read the ASR report? It makes for shocking reading, the level of educational attainment or learning by our children. Therefore, we will address other issues. Don't pit PM Kisan, the measly PM Kisan Samman, with our MIG and then value the two parties. Look at our whole manifesto, which will come out in due course.
I'm going to switch focus and talk about some of the stops that have been doled out for the middle class, and middle class is extremely vocal, and there are some who are celebrating this. The budget has enhanced the exemption limit to 5 lakh from the present 2.5. Can there be any quarrel about the fact that a middle class that honestly pays its taxes has grinned and borne the GST and demonetisation and high fuel prices can do with some respite?
You should have done it in 5 budgets. You should have waited for
Better late than never.
You don't have a right to do it in an interim budget. Suppose the next government, forget whose government it is.
But
Suppose
previous governments have also tweaked indirect taxes.
We have never touched the direct taxes. Listen, 2014, what did I do? I said automobile industry and capital goods deserve an immediate relief in the excise duty, but I'm limiting this cut to 4 months. It's only up to June. And then the next government will come and decide whether the taxes should be tweaked one way or other. Limited to 4 months, and I put the industry on notice. This is not forever, this is only for 4 months. But this is amending the Income Tax Act. Please remember, every year the Finance Bill amends the Income Tax Act. The income tax rates are only good for a year. But that is advisedly. Income tax rates are only good for 1 year. If the same government, even if it wants to continue the rate for the next year, has to once again propose it in the finance bill. This has been the time-honored convention. And you come and in your interim budget, you amend the Income Tax Act. Now, I'm not quarreling about the relief given to the middle class. You should have waited until the month of June or July, and if you came back to power, do it. It's the same effect. What difference is it? Suppose the next government wants to give relief in a different way. I'm asking myself the question. Suppose instead of increasing the tax rebate, they wanted to change the tax slabs. Now first you'll have to undo this and then do it, which is why interim budgets are not supposed to make permanent changes to the Income Tax Act or to direct tax laws.
So you're not in principle opposed to what have done, you're opposed to the timing and their authority to do so as they lay office.
Absolutely. They have no authority. If they wanted to do it, they should have done it in 5 years. Not having done it in 5 years, this is cheating the people. That's why I said, this is not a vote on account. This is an account they are giving to capture votes.
But can any government now roll this back if you were to come back as government?
I don't know. I have not looked at the numbers, but technically another government can recast the slabs and give the same relief. Technically, that's possible.
One of the arguments, and do you believe that's a cleaner, better way to do it?
That is a question you should put to the next finance minister.
For all you know, I'm maybe speaking to one.
Well, I can assure you that the next finance minister will be a smarter chap.
Okay. I'm just going to say the principle with which it has been done, and that is to stoke consumption. And it's not just this government, but governments in the past where had a very important role and position and authority as well. Somehow policy making is always geared towards stoking consumption, and this is exactly what's being done with either the farm relief that they're trying to bring about, or the fact that they're trying to give these income tax stops. In some sense, do you fear this could be inflationary? In some sense, do you fear this is not targeted at investment but at consumption once again?
See, there's nothing wrong in promoting consumption. I've always maintained consumption drives production, production drives investment. Nothing wrong in stoking consumption. But at the same time, you must provide enough for capital investment. There must be public investment as well as private investment. Today, look at their capital expenditure. Their capital expenditure in 2018-19 was about 3 lakh crore rupees. And their capital expenditure in 2019-20 is expected to be about 3 lakhs 40,000 crore.
Very flat.
Crore. But this is not enough for a country that requires massive amounts of investment. Worse is, private investment is in doldrums today. What have you done to promote private investment? I speak to a large number of people, including business persons. Nobody wants to invest another pie. He says, we'll wait and see. They are prepared to invest abroad, in their plants abroad or businesses abroad, but nobody wants to invest here. We'll wait and see. So you've done nothing to investment. You're stoking consumption.
But doesn't ease of doing business and some of the, changes that have been undertaken pave the way for private investment?
The ease of doing business is a joke. You do a survey in 2 cities, and on 2 parameters like electricity and I think some building application or something, you are reducing the time by a few days, and that immediately jumps your rank. What kind of a gimmickry is all this? I mean, ease of doing business, you test it by going to Gorakhpur, by going to, say, a small town like Karekudi, and asking the young man there, how easy is it to start a business?
Life isn't easy there. I come from that part of the world, I can tell you. But there is one figure that, and I know you are no fan of demonetization, neither am I. And I think that
I've become a big fan of demonetization. I'll tell you why.
You have?
Yeah. Demonetization year 2016-17, according to this government, blessed by the Niti Aayog, showed the highest growth rate of 8.2. Therefore, I'm advocating to Mr. Modi and his government, please do another round of demonetization immediately. Demonetize the 100 rupee note this time. Your growth will go up to 9%.
You've tweeted about that, and I'll come to that data in just a minute from now. But even as a detractor of demonetization, if I look at 2 numbers, and I think it's only fair that you answer this question, our tax collection jumped from 6.38 lakh crore rupees in fiscal year 14 to 12 lakh crore rupees now.
So what?
Whether, you can blame demonetization for its ills, you can blame GST for its glitches, but hasn't this at least expanded our tax base? Aren't we collecting more direct taxes than we ever did?
Every year we collect more direct taxes than the previous year. It's like Mr. Goyal said, defense budget is the highest ever. Next year it will be higher, it will be the highest ever. The year after it will be higher, it will be the highest ever. So defense budget, it's like saying, I have reached the highest age I have in my life. Next year you will reach an even higher age. What kind of an argument is this? Tell me, which year have you collected direct taxes less than the previous year?
But this is almost doubling of direct taxes over
in
a 5-year period.
So what's wrong with that? You look at the previous 5-year period. I think in between 2004 and 2009 also we doubled. I mean, these are all...
So you don't think it's a demonetization?
These are all playing with numbers. Anybody who understands numbers will know that these will only grow. Expenditure will grow. Then you should have said the highest expenditure ever. It will always be so. Next year will be an even higher expenditure.
Sir, if I may quickly talk about one of the important things, and that's jobs. And you're right, the budget is very quiet and very silent on jobs. And I will go
Nothing on jobs.
nothing on
Not
jobs.
silent.
But I think people will turn around and ask that you may criticize them, and I think you rightfully are on some of the issues. But what is your alternate roadmap as far as alleviating farm stress or even jobs creation is concerned? And is your minimum income guarantee support scheme not also a tacit admission that we will not be able to create the jobs that the economy needs?
No, no.
And which is why
no,
this sort of a support
on
is
the
required.
On the contrary, today families are trapped in poverty and their members are unable to get out of that trap of poverty and go and try this and try that. Once you assure a family that your income will be brought up to a minimum level, that will encourage younger family members to go out and try new things. Actually, they will become more creative, more entrepreneurial, more enterprising. I'm not saying it will happen in every family, but a large number of families will say, well, now that my family minimum income is guaranteed, let me go and try this, let me go and try that. Be that as it may, we will have a plan for creation of jobs, and you will see that in our manifesto.
You know, even as you try and create jobs, people are curious, and yesterday when we were doing the discussion, people were curious to know, are you going to use the Tendulkar Committee report on identifying poverty? How are you going to identify poor?
We have massive data. We have not used big data so far. We've got the estimates made by Mr. Tendulkar. Then I think Dr. Rangarajan made some estimates.
Yeah.
We've got the SCCC. We've got the NSSO Survey. We have got, according to the Chief Statistician, revised data that will be published in June 2019. He said that 4 days ago.
Yes.
It will show a massive slide in poverty. Let's wait for those data. We have massive data. The question, the states have their own data. States have their own data. And for various schemes, you have gathered data. For Ayushman Bharat, you claim to have gathered data. For the National Food Security Act, you have gathered data. Therefore, there is massive data. The point is, people who are familiar with data analysis will have to now devise the criteria to decide what percentile of India's population is poor and deserves to be helped under our MIG program. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, I don't know the exact number, the bottom 20% is poor. But the bottom 20% is not uniformly poor. The bottom 1% is even poorer than the 20th percentile. Therefore, the idea is to bring everybody to a certain minimum level of income, which is why I've been emphasizing the word progressive MIG, so that everybody is brought to a minimum level of income. After that, if the family escapes the trap of poverty and makes more money, I'm very happy. But we want to bring everybody to a minimum level of income.
So this isn't my opinion, because in principle I agree with the fact that I think Indians, and some of them who are extremely poor, need a helping hand, and there can be no two ways about it.
No, let me add one thing.
Yes.
This is the exact same principle of a minimum wage. How do developed countries ensure nobody falls below poverty? Because all employment there is in the organized sector, and they are smaller countries. They fix a minimum wage so that nobody can be hired for a wage below the minimum. So it is the same principle. It's not exactly the same, it's the same principle. Everybody is assured a minimum level of income.
But then what would you say to critics who say that the Congress is going back to its tried-tested formula, which is to dole out entitlement-based schemes?
This is not a dole. I resent the use of the word dole for this. This is our obligation. You see, we could not have done it 20, 30 years ago. Why? Because the size of our GDP was not big enough. The size of our annual revenue...
But that's the question I wanted to ask you. Do you
Yes.
think we have the fiscal elbow room
Yeah,
to...
yeah. I can do the math for you, but I won't do it. We'll do it in the manifesto. I can do the math for you.
And you can achieve comfortably a fiscal deficit target and do this?
Yes. The size of our GDP... Size of our GDP gives us that level of comfort where we can try this bold idea. We could not have done it 20 years ago, I admit that.
On that note, sir, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Okay, thank you.